If I were to ask you why music was important, why it was special to you, your answer, while the words may be slightly different, would actually be very similar to probably most people. You'd probably talk about the way it attaches to your emotions, your memories. In short, it's all about the effect.
I think why we get kind of compared to like, oh, you guys sound like 80s kind of thing. It's because like we sound like a band like how the 80s era of like bands like really like focused on their instrument and really played and learned the instrument well and without quantizing and without all that stuff. It's like you know, being a musician was something that Nick and I grew up really admiring and wanting to be hanging in that crew. You know, I mean, you're surrounded by the best musicians in the world growing up, and you don't know, you know, when you're born into something, you don't, it's just life, right? You just think, oh, it's dad's friends, or that's what dad does, and oh, blah. And then you grow up and you realize, oh, wait, this is like, they're people that are very like, you know, respected all around the world.
The Effect, consisting of frontman Emmett Stang, Toto vocalist and keyboardist Steve Majora. You got Trev Lukather on guitar, who happens to be the son of Toto co-founder and guitarist and just all-around iconic session musician Steve Lukather, and Nick Collins on drums, son of legendary drummer Phil Collins. And from the first moment, and I'm not exaggerating here, from the first moment that I heard their first song, I started to pick up an energy, both within their sound and the way they presented themselves within their videos, that made me feel like, yeah, I think they probably picked the right name for their band.
The 1984 video came out with Van Halen, and in that video, Eddie smiles through like the whole video. He's just smiling and blowing smoke rings, and then Trev is playing, and it's that same vibe. Like you have this, like you love what you're doing, and it just feeds off. Like I just like watching you play in the videos because you're just so happy. It just comes off that.
Oh,
I was going to comment on that. I was going to comment on that too, because it's like the thing I loved watching about Taylor Hawkins watching him play. He was always smiling. It was infectious, and just like Don's talking about, Trev, you're always smiling. Love it.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I mean, I get haters, man, that I smile, you know. Like, but
What's wrong with
they're like,
people?
stop smiling.
You can't say
I mean,
super group
we
and you
live in an
can't
interesting
smile.
time, but it's funny when you get the hate comments. And it's not even about, you got to love when you get hate comments. It's not even about the playing. It's about the smiling that they have a problem with. You know, you're making me uncomfortable. Stop smiling at me. Nick, remember we did an interview. I think the first question this guy asked was, so Nick, are you creeped out by Trev looking at you smiling the whole time that when you guys are playing? And I'm like,
Is that a serious
okay,
question?
that's a good
Is that
first
a serious
question.
Really being funny.
I was like, okay, we're starting strong here, man.
Now, sure, you could make the argument that the energy that I'm picking up on, especially within their music videos, is more of a product of just a really good video producer. But in talking with Trev and Nick, I got to tell you, I mean, there was a lot of laughter that was taking place during the interview, such that you can really tell that they're individual personalities. They bring a lot of energy into this project. And then when you combine these energies, they really are having a very special effect on the band's total creativity.
Nick's drumming is so unique, and it's so true. He's not, even though he can go in and crush it with his dad and do Genesis note for note, but like when you put Nick in his element, he's completely different.
My dad gave me a couple like pointers. Like I didn't even really remember him doing it, but when we went back through like old family videos a couple years ago, there's videos of him being like, all right, Nick, like what's secret number 1? And it was like, that would be like, I don't know, keep the hi-hat going when you're on your ride cymbal. Or then secret number 2 was like, keep the kick drum going during a fill, or stuff like that. And but he was very much like, totally let me find my own path and relationship towards the drums. I mean, undeniably, like he was a massive, and is still a massive influence on me from just watching him play, and then eventually playing his stuff and Genesis stuff.
Nick would come at me, man, and throw something that I would never think of in a million years, and it was sick, and it was unique, and it was different, and everything that he thought I was gonna hate, I loved, and I made him do it again and put it in another part of the song. You know, putting a double kick drum in a in a pop rock song is not really heard of. My father-in-law, Jonathan Cain, Madison's stepdad, I mean, he said to me, you know, when you have a singer like Steve Perry, the songwriting is at, like it's limitless to what you can do. Emmett is a very trained, experienced, like he's, he trains his vocals to never push. He's like, it might sound like he's belting, but he's just trained his voice where it sounds like a belt, but it's like he's not hurting his vocal cords.
And when he did that When a Man Loves a Woman cover,
When a man loves a woman, can't keep his mind on nothing else.
With Emmett, the ideas are endless when it comes to top line. What he could do is so like it's insane. I've thrown things at him while producing the record, like thrown these catastrophic, atmospheric, crazy notes. There's a song called "Tinned," which is one of our There Is No Doubt, what we'll be releasing somewhat soon, I'm sure. And it's more of a vibier track. But going into my guitar solo, I mean, he hits a full on like faithfully, Journey faithfully and high note into the solo. And he did it like that.
There's no fire, it's the something wrong with me.
With Steve and Em, it's crazy. Like certain songs, is Em will be like, "Hey man, I want to catch my breath here. Like, Steve, can you take that lead?" And Steve's like, "Yeah, no problem." And then it belts it perfectly.
Always say,
Trev, Steve, and Em, I don't sing when we do live things because they've got like the powerful trifecta of vocals. But, Em and Steve have no problem blending with each other. It's actually really kind of wild sometimes when they're just throwing off half the hook as one of them. I'm just sitting back there.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys figure it out. I'll be hitting things, So
Nick can sing though. Don't let him try to shy away the fact that my man can sing.
remind me why. Seem to be lost in time, but I guess I'll give it a try. Walls down in the heat of the moment, I found out my love's unwanted.
I watched David Gilmour and Neil Sean and Trevor Rabin, and I just
I was
watched
wondering
these.
if you were a Trevor Rabin fan.
Yeah, I was named after Trevor Rabin actually, and I got into the the Yes stuff that he did, and then his solo album from like '89, and like his soloing was just so melodic, and he's just such a genius, underrated guy. And I mean, Owner of a Lonely Heart. How many times, Nick, have I played you that solo? And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm air guitaring, and I'm like, like the octave and the harmonizers on it, like creating such a moment in the song as a solo is something that Trevor fucking. I'm sorry for cussing.
Oh, no.
Trevor just crushed, and that was a heavy influence on me too.
The Effect. Now, we were scheduled to talk for an hour. We talked for probably about an hour and a half, just over an hour and a half. At least half of that was probably spent laughing about just silly stuff. But in talking with Trev and Nick, you definitely get a sense there's a real personality within this band. Their music is exciting. They've got 3 songs out already, and the album is on the way. But be sure to follow for part 2, because this is where I'm going to get more into how the band formed, more of the personal influences for Nick and Trev, more information about their upcoming album, and I'll probably share just some of the silly conversations that we had throughout the whole process to give you a little bit more of the personality. So stay tuned.